Hi, how's everybody doing today? Clint the Audio Guy back here with another video for you. I was just playing around with my Marantz Kai Ruby integrated amp. It's the match to the SACD player that's in my main rack. And I was just like, before I hook this up in my bedroom, I want to see how much of a difference there is between the Marantz and the Macintosh stuff, right? And the first thing I noticed, I thought it would be a pretty massive difference, but I also thought maybe it'll fool me and those people online were right and all amps sound the same. And since I'm only using 30 watts of power, let's say, to listen to music, if I'm listening pretty loud, I'll be able to see the difference. Now, this is like 120 watts a channel. These are 1200 RMS. So big difference there. But the thing that it confirmed in my mind is that the speaker is the most important thing in a audio system, in a stereo. And that's because it still sounds like my stereo. I completely changed the preamp and amps, because that's what this is, preamp and amp in one chassis. And it still sounds like my stereo. If I was sitting here blindfolded, I go, okay, yeah, I'm listening to my stereo. That's high praise for something that this is a preamp and amp that costs half the price of the preamp. Now, there were differences though. There was also, it didn't sound the same, but it had the general tonal characteristics of my stereo because the speaker was the same. But it did not have the dynamics, it didn't have the channel separation and the sound staging that the Mac system had, and the iron grip kind of bass extension that the Mac amps give it. But it still sounded good, so kind of an interesting little tidbit. Now, the reason I'm making this video, so this is kind of a twofer. I'm playing around with that, but actually only 500 of these came to the US, by the way, and this is number 189. So not a very not a highly available unit, let's say. The reason I'm making this video is tone controls. What are tone controls good? Are tone controls bad? Should you not use them? Should you? My position on that is that generally I don't use them. I don't use them at all. I haven't used them on all my stereos, basically, up until this point. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't use them either. In my opinion, I want the tone controls out of circuit. So generally, if you have them off, they're not in circuit, and they're not going to play any coloration or any veiling of the sound at all. There are reasons that you could use them. If your system's particularly bright, you can take the edge off with just doing 1.5 dB, let's say a dB and a half on the treble. If your speakers have to be placed close to a wall and you're getting boundary gain, so you're getting a boost in the bass because they're close to a wall, but that's the way the room lays out, you have to put them there. Then you could take a little bit of bass out with the tone control. That would be a good thing to do. In general, my opinion with tone controls is that you should only use them if you think the system needs it to balance in your room. That's my personal opinion. If the preamp that you have doesn't have tone controls on it, then great, you don't even have to worry about it. Worry about speaker placement more than anything. If it does, you can not use them like me, keep them out of circuits, or you can dial them in if there's a particular problem that you're trying to solve. Now, with the C53 preamp, this one actually has 8 tone controls, which since I've got it have remained off. But since there's 8, that gives me some more flexibility to kind of correct the room, let's say room correction. So, but you have to take measurements for that. So I'm going to sit at my listening position with a nice condenser instrument grade microphone, measure the frequency response of the system in my room, and then I'm going to dial all the dials to see how much I can correct the room. And the nice thing about that is you can just turn it on and off separately. So I can just turn them off out of circuit, and then I can turn them on, and I can see if I like the correction in the room. And also see if it veils the sound at all. But up until this point, I don't use them. I'm not a big tone control person. One thing people mistake a lot, actually, with tone controls is they think like, oh, I like bass. My speaker doesn't have a lot of bass. I'll just crank up the bass knob. That is not a smart thing to do. The speaker probably isn't designed to produce a lot of bass. Either that or you don't have a strong enough amplifier to drive it. But what people don't understand is bass frequencies take so much more power than mid-range frequencies. Like mid-range, like 1 kilohertz, deep bass frequencies can take 20 times more power to get to that same volume. It's so much more power. So if you turn up the bass, you're going to put a massive demand on your amplifier, and your amplifier might not be able to deliver it. And you'll get to clipping much, much faster. So my suggestion with dialing up tone controls in the bass particularly, don't go more than 1.5 decibels. If you need a little bit of boost in the bass, 1.5. That's it. Because 3 decibels, 3 dB, and most of these tone control knobs will go to 10. You know, so people think, oh, I'm going to 3 o'clock. I'm only using half of it. But 3 decibels is more like here. You know, 3 decibels requires double the power. So if you need, say, 10 watts of power for mid-range to produce your listening volume, whatever it is, let's say it's 80 decibels, and you need 10 watts in the mid-range. Well, the deep bass takes 20 times that. So the deep bass takes 200 watts. If you turn it up 3 decibels, now the deep bass takes 400 watts, because 3 decibels is doubling of the power needs to go up 3 decibels. So you can see how it gets beyond the power of the amplifier very fast, and you start getting clipping, and that's when you start damaging voice coils. You can burn out your voice coil in your woofer, and the speaker really generally isn't designed to handle that. So I never suggest boosting bass. I suggest if you do anything, take a little bit out of the bass because of placement in the room, or take a little bit out of the treble. The other thing is when you have a bass and treble knob, you say, oh, well, I don't have a mid-range. Well, you can turn, if you want more mid-range presence out of a speaker, you can turn the bass and treble down. That's the same thing as turning up the mid-range, because you can't have more of something without having less of everything else. If you turn up one frequency, that's just, and you're turning the volume knob to the same volume level in the room. You know, if you had a microphone and you're measuring the volume level, you effectively have less of everything else. So you have more bass and you go, oh, I can't hear the mid-range, and I don't hear the detail so well. Well, yeah, it's because you effectively turned down the mid-range and treble. So if you don't like when you turn something up and you lose something else, maybe you just don't like that speaker, or maybe you need a new amplifier to drive it better. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. Use them if you want to. I don't judge. People have differences in their ears too. That's what the volume knob is, or the balance knob is for. So use them if you want to. I personally don't, but I am going to play around with the 8 bands on here to see if I can correct for the room and see if I like it. And then we'll see. I'll report back. So I'll stop rambling. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments below if you use tone controls and why, because I'm curious about that. All right, thanks. We'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.